Yeah, that was pretty incredible. Air Force, yeah, totally. Unintentional puns for 100. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the Air Force Band a little bit, because they didn't have a lot of time to be here, but what may have not been clear to you, even those of you who didn't get a chance to go, is all those people already have music degrees. So, and many of them have music degrees from the quote-unquote best institutions in the country, Eastman, Cincinnati Conservatory, things like that. So they didn't just go into the military from high school and be like, hey, I can play. So you are still eligible to do something like that. And it is a pretty awesome career track. You're not gonna find a lot of other jobs where you get paid to play full-time and you get to travel around the country like that, and they're gonna pay for all that. So if you have any questions about that, they give me some information. I'm happy to pass that on to you. I also have the people's emails. Military bands are obviously extremely competitive, singing sergeants, same thing. But if you are interested in that, it is a career option to consider that I don't think talked about a whole lot. So I encourage you to look at it, and there's all sorts of open calls that they put on their website as well. We've been having some weird things happen with the practice rooms. We had like 4 mirrors get smashed. I don't think it was us. Yeah, but if you guys see something, will you tell Jenny or Cindy or me that something's happening? Mike's going out, but we just need to know. And if you see anybody in the practice rooms that you don't think is supposed to be there, just tell us. We do have security cameras up there, and we can obviously see, we can track everybody's swipe, including yours. So whenever anybody swipes, and we did have a whole bunch of people try to swipe into the practice rooms that didn't have access, so I don't know if they found a way to get into a couple of them and broke some mirrors or what, but if you see that, please let us know. I don't know what's going on up there, but it is, you all need to be safe. It's a 24-hour building, so even if you see something and you're not sure about it, just tell us, so nobody gets caught up there with somebody who's trying to be a problem. Yeah?
So it looked like the ones with the smashed mirrors are the ones that stay unlocked all the time, because there's some of them that don't actually lock.
There we go. There are practice rooms that don't lock. We didn't know that either. Okay, so we need to fix that.
It's like a normal door. They're all.
Okay. Why do I pay so much money every year for swipe access for doors that don't lock? You have no idea how crazy expensive that swipe is. All right, thanks you guys for telling me that. We'll fix it. The other request I've had is the constant running complaints that rooms with grand pianos really need to be for piano majors first. And I know some of you have big instruments and the little rooms are not great, but the piano majors only have 3 rooms up there with grand pianos. So please, if there is not a reason for you to be in there, don't use the grand piano rooms, because they need access to those. It's really tight. I wish we had more practice rooms, but we don't.
I mean, there is like 3 big rooms without grand piano. It's like on the very end of the hallway, and I guess it's 322.
Yeah.
With the window as well, going on the side of the.
Jeremy can show you where the other big rooms are. Okay,
No,
so
I just
yeah, but please try and be respectful of the piano majors, because that's all they've got, and they can't practice on those rinky-dink little digital pianos, right? So, any other events coming up? I think there's 2 marching band performances left, right? One being this weekend, and then there's one more game. 2 more games. So this is one of 3.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, if you haven't seen the show yet, I've seen it now a couple of times. The Bands of America performance, for those of you who are marching band, was absolutely incredible. So if you haven't seen it though, I encourage you to go. It doesn't cost you anything to go into the football game, and the show is really cool, and it's so appropriate for Halloween. So go check it out.
They're going to Knoxville on Monday. There's no game this weekend. And
Oh yeah, that's
next
right.
the next Saturday.
Next Saturday, sorry. Next Saturday, so it'll be right after Halloween. Any other events coming up you want to announce? Yeah.
Tonight at St. John's Episcopal Church, Elizabeth Holly is having her flute recital.
Yes.
And she has gotten a string quartet to play with her in one of those pieces. So.
Awesome. We're a little far out, but 2 weekends from now, November 4th, is the orchestra concert. Y'all need orchestra concerts for your recital attendance, so write that one down. It's free for students, same process as usual, just get a student ticket and go in, it is ticketed. Yeah.
Next Thursday, the small brass ensembles, so tuba, euphonium, trumpet, horn, and trombone are doing their concert.
Thank you. Forgot about that.
All,
A week from tonight. Oh, how did I forget that? I should have made my list. I really screwed this up. Faculty vocal recital is tomorrow night. I will tell you right now, this is one of the hardest categories to get. People struggle with this one all the time because we don't have a lot of professional voice recitals. And we just don't bring people in very often. Tomorrow night is professional voice, and it's all the faculty applied teachers. It's going to be a lot of fun. The closer's funny, I promise you. And they said they want it to be short, sweet, and to the point, so it's not going to be super long. So 7:30 tomorrow night, it's all the voice faculty. That'll get you your professional voice. Yeah. Halloween! Halloween! Yeah. Halloween should be a national holiday for all college students. Yeah. Jeremy wants to have a costume contest next Thursday for Symposium. Okay. We can go for it. All right. Dr. Endicott is going to talk to us a little bit. I sent this to you in an email, and the first attachment was wrong, so please just double check this. We have 2 composition competitions every year.
So Dr. Stevens emailed this to you. We do 2 internal composition competitions each year. They're both open to all of you, not just composition majors. The first one is the Sonner Brass Composition Competition, which Brandon won last year. It's for any unconducted brass chamber piece. So brass quintet, trumpet choir, trombone choir, if it's small enough to be unconducted. Anything like that. I think we allow piano accompaniment on that one, so like trumpet and piano would be fine. Those are due, it's listed on the thing, before the end of the year. December 31st, there's a Google form that you fill out and upload a score to, and then the brass faculty and I choose a winner for that one. You get a $1,000 scholarship if you win. The other one is the Kenton Co. competition, which is completely open-ended. It's anything at all that you want to write, any original composition for any ensemble, soloist, whatever. Also a $1,000 scholarship for the winner. That one's due towards the end of January. That one, you get the scholarship, and we also get your piece performed if you win that. Yeah, Dr. Stevens forwarded you the information about those. I'm happy to answer questions whenever. Just stop by my office, email me, stop me in the hall, whatever. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can I participate in both?
Yes. Yep, you can participate in both. Yeah, other questions?
Can you submit multiple pieces?
To the Sonner, you can only submit one. The Kenton Co. is more open-ended, but you're not going to win twice. So,
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Endicott, but I think for the Co, because it's totally open-ended, that's the one that got sent wrong the first time.
yes.
Because it said brass. So it can be choir, piano, orchestra, it can be anything. So if you want to do an orchestra piece and a choir piece, yes. I wouldn't submit 2 things that are the same genre.
Do I have to, can I submit something that I've already written, or can it be something like, or does it have to be something new?
As long as it's an original piece by you, if it's something you wrote last year, that's totally fine.
Cool.
So, you said the more open-ended one, it has to be original work. Can I do an arrangement for the other one?
They both have to be original. So no arrangements.
Even variations on the theme or something, like a theme that,
Variations on the theme. I think for the Co we can allow, because the bulk of the piece would be original. I think that's not, I'd have to go check the Sonner rules,
Okay.
but I think that one's a little stricter. Any other questions?
Don't don't be afraid to put something in. I think everybody thinks, oh, mine's not gonna win. I mean, if Brandon can win, anybody can win.
Is there any sort of like minimum requirement in terms of how long it has to go?
No, the only requirement for the songer is that it's brass and conducted. Other than that, the specific instrumentation, the length, the genre, all of that's totally open. The code, there are no rules at all other than it has to be original.
Cool. Don't be afraid to ask Dr. Endicott questions. He'll help you. All right. Our speaker today has the largest applied studio on campus. You may know him as the man running around the front of the marching band. Please welcome Dr. Matthew Geiger.
I had the chair, I had Cindy set out a chair, and then I was sitting back there on this stool, and I thought this is a lot more comfortable. But as I was walking out here, I had my little clicker prepared, and I had, it's got a little red laser pointer on it and everything. I'm really excited about it. I fell and broke it. So it ironically has a little bit to do with what I want to talk about today. I'm not going to just sit and talk down here. I'm going to put this up here. Great. The idea behind this was, I sat for a little while, I sat for a long time, and I thought, what could I possibly say that would be helpful for you? What could I possibly talk about and it be something at least somewhat relevant to everyone in this room, so you're not sitting here going, well, I wish I were out eating, I wish I could be doing anything else right now but being in here. And so I thought, I don't know. I don't know what I have to offer that would be super relevant or super crazy genius to help you through the next either couple of weeks as you get to the end of the semester or the next several years as you get towards graduation. But what I thought might be helpful is just some things that helped me out when I was an undergrad. And talking about a little bit about my story and where I came from and how I got into music a little bit and how I got into kind of doing all the things that I do. Whether that's with the front ensemble and the marching band, some of the audio technology things, or just the music that I'm interested in. And I really felt like it follows a series of redirections. I kind of wanted to title this a series of failures, and I thought that was a little down and a little negative. But in honesty, a lot of my life is around failures, whether it's as I'm walking out here, I dropped the thing that I really needed to feel comfortable out here, or it's something else where I didn't get into the program I wanted to, or I didn't get the job I wanted, or I didn't get the scholarship I wanted. A lot of things in my life turned out the wrong way, but I think as I look back now, it's exactly what I needed to do to be at the place that I am now, and I'm thrilled to be here. But I wouldn't necessarily know that I was gonna be really excited to have made it here. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Is just where I came from and what kind of excited me about music at first and some things that I thought were helpful for me as I went through it. So, again, the idea of the redirections. Some of these are choices that were made for me, and others are choices I made personally to say, I'm gonna change the way that I'm approaching this so that I can either be happier, healthier, safer, those kinds of things. So I want to start with a few fun facts about me that some of you may know, some of you may not know. The first thing is I'm a massive Jacksonville Jaguars football fan. I couldn't tell you why. They're better than the Steelers. Sorry, Dr. Ball. But it actually has a lot to do with video games. When I was, 6, Madden 96 came out, and I wanted to play with the expansion teams. And if you pressed all the buttons on Sega Genesis a bunch of times, eventually Madden would go boom! And you'd get to be able to be the Panthers or the Jaguars. And I like the Jaguars. Really, really long story to say, I just like the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm an intense introvert. And for those of you who know me, that might be a bit surprising. Or you're like, absolutely, I get it. I'm an intense introvert who pretends to be an extrovert. And I do that for a lot of reasons. I do that because I want to be perceived as someone who is approachable, and I want to be perceived with a lot of energy. And in doing so, I end up exerting a tremendous amount of energy. So when my day is done, I am absolutely spent. Most of my day is helping others and doing things for other people, and I love that. It gives me a lot of joy and a lot of purpose in my life, which is why I think I've ended up in this teacher role. But at the same time, I really value alone time, or one-on-one time. So if you ever see me just down, it's mostly because I'm just out of energy. And as an introvert, I need time to recuperate. But a lot of this job is being in public places, doing big extroverted things like this. I hate the beach. I absolutely hate the beach. Any beaches, I hate the beach. I would prefer mountains and cabins, and again, that may be why I was redirected into this place, where we have beautiful scenery literally on campus. Within 20 minutes, you can go to a mountaintop and look out. It's awesome. But yeah, hate the beach. Sand, no. About 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And so I deal with a bit of anxiety, and it showcases itself in sleeplessness. It showcases itself in just overall stress level. I think when I was asked to do this in my head, I was like, all right, well, I'll just walk out and I'll talk a little bit. But then as the anxiety rose, I was like, no, I need a lot of things in place to feel comfortable. And so one of those was my clicker. I'm over it. But I'm going to keep bringing it up. I just had a really cool red laser pointer on it. And I was going to, anyway. But I'll talk a little bit more about that for me. I realize very much that mental health is a big thing, and it's unique for everybody and what they're going through. But I'll talk about what I struggle with and how I was able to kind of overcome some of that. Very much some of it. Things that I really don't like, performing music as a soloist, talking to large groups of people. And so it's just ironic how things have gotten to this place, but I'll talk about that later. I had an iguana named Chewbacca for several years. Yeah, some people are like, yeah. It was not the best choice in my life, but it's a great. No, I do love my pets, but Chewie was a monster. She would, anytime you went to feed her, she would whip her tail at you, and she was like, her body was like this long, but her tail was like 4 times that length. And so I would just give her kale, and she would be so angry, and just whip, like, any time. I'm like, I'm helping you! And she hated me, but she was smelly too. But I would still have her if I didn't have to rehome her when I moved to my master's. She was great. The last thing I'll mention just about me, I'm celiac. So I have celiac disease. I say that mostly just in case you're thinking about getting me nice food later, or you want to get a snack. It has to be gluten-free. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, most of the things you may already know, and a few things that you may not. Going back a little bit, so before college, like, how many people knew what they wanted to do when they were in 5th grade, 6th grade? You knew what you were going to do. A couple people up here. What did you want to do?
I don't know anymore.
You don't know. You knew, but you knew. You were very confident.
I thought I knew in 5th grade. Now I'm here and I'm lost. Also say.
I get that. Who else?
I wanted to be an astronomer.
An astronomer. Very good. Very good. Last one.
I wanted to be a scientist for NASA, but now I'm here in music education.
Okay, we got a couple people with the like space themes.
When I was little, I really wanted to be an engineer, but then I found out that engineering is one of the most stressful majors you do in college, and I also found out I'm better at music, so I switched to music.
You chose music as a less stressful choice?
I wanted to do autopsies.
Autopsies. Okay, very cool. So that kind of relates to mine a little bit. When I was younger, I really wanted to be an anesthesiologist. So my parents were super excited that I wanted to be like a doctor and help people. And so I was really excited about, the money. That was pretty much it. And so I remember when I was in second grade, my next door neighbor, who was an anesthesiologist, came home in a golden Jaguar, which may relate to my football team. Came home in a golden Jaguar, and I remember going over there and I said, Kevin, that was my voice back then, Kevin, it's a cool car. And he said, yeah, I drove past it and I want it, so I bought it. Oh, I want that job where you can just do that with a luxury sports car. And that was the redirection. I wanted to do that, and then I got into biology. And so for second grade through sixth grade, that was what I wanted very intensely. I was preset. My parents were like, we're getting you all the tutoring. You're going to be a real doctor. You're going to do great things. We love it. And in sixth grade, I took a biology course, and they made me dissect a frog, and I was out. I couldn't do it. And I had no interest in seeing any sort of anatomy, blood, things like that. And so I kind of had to redirect a little bit into what I wanted to do. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, even going into college, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, so just central Indianapolis. My mom is one of the world's greatest education specialists in Indiana as a principal now. And my dad used to work for Steak and Shake, which was a really fun fact before he stopped working for Steak and Shake. But I liked being able to say that. That was good. Again, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. We're going through all of this. I started playing drums in the fourth grade. And so I didn't know that was really what my career was going to be about, but I definitely knew that I wanted to be the center snare drummer. Like, that was my goal. I saw the center snare drummer at a marching band show, and I was like, that is cool. I've never marched snare in my life. Again, you could call it a series of failures, but the opportunities didn't work out that way that I wanted to do. And so I started playing drums in fourth grade, taking private lessons. In fifth grade, I picked up the cello. I was bad at the cello. Very bad at the cello. I think I did that because I wanted to learn how to read bass clef better, and I did not want to practice cello. And I remember they gave me the choice. They said, you can either play the melody of Stand By Me or the Little Frog 5-1 thing where I didn't have to learn any of this. And I very easily and quickly chose the don't make me do anything with the left hand, I can at least play 5-1. And I think that was a sign that I was never going to work on this. Those who play cello in here, I applaud you for your effort on a very challenging instrument that I love the sound of that I can never play. And then I kind of got involved in middle school band and jazz band, and that really took off for me. I had a really influential jazz band director in 8th grade. For 2 years, I was the drummer in the back who kept annoying everyone. I got kicked out of almost every band class once a week for 6th grade and 7th grade. They put me in the hallway. I talked in class. I hit the drums when I wasn't supposed to. I was a terrible student. I'm not sure why I stayed in it. But in 8th grade, I had a band director who actually believed in treating percussionists like musicians. And he actually asked me to do things other than just stand in the back silently. And he cared about me. And that made a huge difference for me. And his name is Jim DeCaro. I think he was one of the main reasons why I decided to keep going into music in high school, and one of the main reasons why I still teach music now. I went to Lawrence Central High School, which is a really big BOA program. It used to be really big. It's not as big now. But I went there. I kind of wanted to show you a little bit. If you, the videos, so I went through YouTube. You can find anything on YouTube now. Like from 30 years ago, you can find videos. So I found the 2004 video when Lawrence Central won first place at the Grand National Champions for the BOA. And if you look really closely, the film's grainy, and maybe I did that on purpose so you couldn't really see. But if you look really closely, you can see me in the video. So let's take a look. I was not marching snare. No. I was in the pit playing the electronic instrument that you could mute when I wasn't able to play it in time. I didn't know that at the time, but now I know as a teacher, that's exactly what I do with some of those 7th graders who just can't do it. would be fun if I just played like 10 minutes or like 30 minutes of marching band videos, but I won't do that. It's a lot of that though. A lot of what I was passionate about in high school and college was marching band. I was passionate about it because I thought it was really fun, but I also, and I think this is maybe the more relatable thing, that was a home for me. I didn't really have a place that I really fit in. My brother and sister, who are just tremendous people, they were mean to me in high school, but my brother and sister are amazing. My brother is a dentist leading practice in Indianapolis, and my sister is a molecular biophysicist or biochemist, like curing real diseases and cancer and things in San Francisco at a major tech company. So I was like the runt of the family. And I was really trying really hard to feel like I fit in somewhere. So I was in the chess team, I did debate club, I did drama club. I was Porthos, who is the chubbier musketeer in the Three Musketeers. I tried a lot of things to figure out what would work for me. And it wasn't until band that I really found my place. And that's not to say marching band is everyone's place, but just that was really important to me, that was just an area where I felt like I actually belonged. And so that really helped push me to decide, hey, I really want to go into music some more. I didn't know what I really wanted to do other than when I went to college, I thought, oh, I want to be a high school band director. I actually want to be a high school percussion teacher. It wasn't until later that I was talking to my parents, and my mom was like, you'd be a terrible high school teacher. Why'd you let me go to college for it? And they're like, well, we didn't think you'd do that. So I ended up going to University of Kentucky, again, under the assumption that I was going to do marching band pretty heavily. Like, that was what I thought. I had applied for a couple other schools and got completely rejected. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I can't go to this other school. I'll tell you which ones they were, but it doesn't matter. There were several that I didn't make it in. And I was fortunate to not, because I really fit in better at UK. And I went there because the teacher there, Jim Campbell, was like a Cavalier icon. And I thought, okay, great, I'm going to UK to study with the guy who teaches at the Cavaliers. Hey, you're wearing a Cavalier shirt. You get 5 points. Can I give points here? No? Okay, right. But I went there thinking that I was going to study with the guy who helped Cavaliers. Like day one, they were like, no, man, that's not what this is at all. He has nothing to do with the marching band, nothing. I remember calling my mom the first day of marching band after being berated by every upperclassman, called a new guy and told how much I suck, you're awful. I called her in tears, like, this is not, I wanted to do not this. Like, in my head, everybody who went to college to do marching band was like, they loved it. And that just isn't true. But more importantly, there were people who were just like not nice to me, and as you'll deal with in life. And so I was like, I need to go home. I don't want to be here. I say this hopefully not to tell you, oh, he's a complainer, but more importantly to say, if you've ever had that feeling like, this is just really hard and I want to quit, they've never felt that before, this is just not true. We deal with that a lot, and it's one of those things you got to kind of work through. But anyway, so I ended up making it through that process. I found several friends, and I think that was a big part of what helped me get through that. So I did feel like I learned a few things in that process of an undergrad that I think is a little bit helpful for you all. The first thing was just kind of to follow those inspirations you have. It's really easy to get bogged down in the academics. So if you are here just tired right now, because it is October and almost November, it is a long semester, fall is tough, and you're tired, I encourage you to go back to what inspires you. Go back to what makes you happy about music, and that's why you're here. We get to do something that no other major gets to do, and that is do something we absolutely love, although it's difficult. And just to share, again, my inspirations, things that I was really passionate about. Again, here's a really grainy video of one of my absolute favorite things that I liked to watch when I was in high school. The Vanguard Tenor Ensemble. marching band videos, but again, it's a little heavy in the front. So I remember watching that when I was in high school, like that's the coolest thing ever. I remember the spot I was at when I saw it on the computer. And I thought, well, that'd be really cool for me to play tenors and drum corps. Some of you who know me know the end of this story, but I got cut so many times from so many drum corps. I never got to audition on tenors at Vanguard. I tried, actually. In 2010, I tried and didn't even go through with the audition. And that's a little bit of a longer story. But you never really know what can happen if you just keep your eyes open. I really wanted to march Cavaliers. That kind of ties in. I got cut 3 years in a row from Cavaliers. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But again, just talking about a little bit of the failures of, it happens a lot. Not 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row, and then like 2 years later I marched somewhere and then came back and then got cut again. So 3 total years. But it was just interesting how things worked out in my life. It was luck, I think it was. And you could say, whatever luck is or success is when preparation meets opportunity. But it was really just when there was an opportunity, I was willing to try whatever I could to make it work. And sometimes you try everything and it still fails. But this time it kind of worked out. When I got to Kentucky, the place that I thought I was going to go march Cavaliers, tenors, There was a guy with an SCV sweatshirt. His name was Andrew Jarvis. Doesn't matter. He's a good guy. But most importantly, he had this SCV sweatshirt, and I'm like, oh, somebody who's not going to yell at me and call me a new guy and tell me how awful I am. And he was really nice to me. And I was like, oh, I like Vanguard. And he was like, oh, cool, I march Vanguard. I was like, oh, that's really cool. How'd you do that? You live in Kentucky. That's in, San Francisco. And he's like, well, blah, 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 long story, blah, blah. He got connected there, and he said, well, I'm going out again in November. Would you want to try out for Pitt? I'm a tenor drummer. That's what I do. I'll try Pitt, though, because if I can do that, then the next year I'll try for tenors, and I'll be in the ensemble. My teacher did that in high school. He was in the Pitt at Cavaliers, and then he made the bass line and then the tenor line. So I could do that. But I was able to get in a drum corps, which was really exciting for me. And I tried out for Vibe 4, like the very last spot. If you're trying to figure out what spots exist in marching band, that was the bottom spot. I got there, and 2 of the marimbas, one was stuck in Thailand and couldn't get out for a year. So that opened up. Another one didn't show up until way later and wasn't able to make the drum corps. So there were 2 open marimba spots. And this is the only advice here. If you can sight read well, you will have a major advantage in the musical world. And so I was a good sight reader, and I was able to learn the drum break that weekend at camp. And so, hey, we better put this guy on marimba, because he can at least learn the music quickly. I wasn't very good, but that was really helpful for me. So I got to do the drum corps thing and live the dream that I really wanted to. And I got to do this. Let's see if this video works. Oh, it's all right. There I am, right there. That's not me. Also not me. So I guess the moral of that I really am trying to at least put out there is if you're so stuck to what you think is the only way to do something, and when an opportunity presents itself, you say no, or you say, no, that's not the right path for me, you're maybe missing out on an opportunity to do something else that's just as good. No, I'm a tenor drummer. It was kind of my thought when I first thought about being in the front ensemble. And then it was like, no, I really like this. And I think I'm actually kind of good at this. And so that's why I did that. So, let's go into some other things that are a little more broad. I think we're done with the marching band, so those of you who are like, I'm done with marching band, we're done with that. Surprise, just kidding. No. Grit and determination can go a lot farther than natural talent and passion. So, I know a lot of people who are really excited about music and who are really passionate about it. I really want to play this. I really want to do this. I love this. But if you don't have grit to stick with it, and the determination to make it happen, it won't happen. You don't magically wake up someday and play something really challenging, that's really hard, just because you want to do it. And so the grit idea is all about the idea of sticking with something. Angela Duckworth has a book called Grit, and she uses the term the stick-to-itiveness. How willing are you to stick with something and get to the end? I will admit, it helps to have both, though. To have the grit and determination while also having a passion, while also having the natural talent. You may not have that, but if you have a grit and determination to make it happen and you truly don't give up on it, you can make a lot of progress. So that's just my advice there. You'll never know who will be hiring you. So a little bit about these misdirections. If I had said, no, I'm a tenor drummer, I would not have gotten to march Santa Clara. I may have tried to do another drum corps. I was playing tenors in the marching band at UK, so I knew I was going to try again. The caption head at the time, his name is Brian Mason. The caption head, Brian Mason, fast forward 6 years later, I finished my master's, I'm in my doctorate, and the teacher at Morehead State is looking for a new adjunct. And the teacher is Brian Mason. And he said, oh, I remember you from drum corps. He could have said, oh, I remember you from drum corps. But no, it was hopefully a positive thing. You never know who's going to be on that search committee. You never know who's going to call to get a reference. Here's kind of a little secret. They might call your old band director. They might call someone else, even if you don't list them as a reference. That can happen. You may have somebody on your search committee who knew you as a college freshman, who knew you as the person who I don't want to remember the mistakes that I've made and the things that I did, who knew you as a freshman, and all of a sudden they're the athletic bands director at ETSU, who is going to either decide whether or not they want to hire you or not hire you. And the impression that they have is that of you as a freshman at UK, who really didn't think concert band was that important, who kind of was annoying, who really thought that they were way better than they really were. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about how to be a lot more humble and realize that I'm fully flawed. But you never know who's going to be on that hiring committee, and you want to make sure you make good impressions on that. Everyone struggles. For me, this is important because I watch through the social media lens, and I think that everybody else has got it all together. Everybody else has really figured out life. And that's just not true. Now, you may not be struggling at life right now, which is great, but it's going to happen. And if you're watching someone else going, they seem to have it easy, they've got it all figured out, they're either lying to you or to themselves, or it just hasn't hit them yet. Life hits so hard sometimes. And the lie that we tell ourselves is it's happening just to me. No one else understands. No one else can help me. And that's not true. There's a lot of help. And you are not alone in those struggles. Your struggles are unique, but you are not alone in that. Finally, making short-term and long-term goals. One of the big things I learned as an undergrad was I have to think broader than just when am I going to eat tomorrow or when am I going to practice. What are my short-term and long-term goals? And actually write those down. What are some of your short and long-term goals? Thoughts? I'm going to sit down now. Short-term goals. Who has a short-term goal that's within 6 months?
Sorry, I didn't think I'd get to whatever.
You lost it? That's all right.
Get a job.
Get a job in 6 months? Good, okay. Yeah, good. Get a job.
Release my own music.
That's a good one, yeah. Release your own music.
Learn mellophone.
Learn mellophone, okay. These are really specific. I like it. B.
Pass the leveling jury.
Yeah, pass the leveling jury. Anybody else with a little, some of you may not be leveling up this. Yeah, so several people. Okay, good. Yeah.
Have my piece prepared for juries.
Prepare your piece. Yeah, I think a lot of that is kind of in that regard. We'll go back here and then we'll go up to Megan. Yeah, I don't know names. I'm super bad with names. I barely know. No, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, get a new berry sax.
Get a new berry sax, okay.
Save up for a car.
Save up for a car. Very good. That could turn into a long-term goal if it takes a while, but that makes sense. Last one.
That just reminded me to get a driver's license.
Get it right. Yeah, so again, just having this idea of you need short-term goals to know what you're trying to do other than, well, I need to wake up. I need to go to class. And the short-term goals can be as simple as, I want to pass this class. I want to pass this test. I need to finish these assignments. But if you only live in the short-term goal world, you miss an opportunity to make long-term plans and move on the trajectory towards that. What are some of your long-term goals?
Financial independence.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Financial independence.
Get married.
Get married, good one.
Like by a certain time being able to play certain repertoire.
Okay, yeah, just in terms of, do you have specific pieces or is that just a broad thing, like being able to pick any piece and be able to do it in a certain time?
I mean, depends. I'm thinking about like broader aspect, like certain pieces are still
Got it. That makes sense. Really long-term planning on terms of what pieces. White. Graduate. Very good. How many people that's one of their long-term goals? Very good. Very good. Here's the question I would add to that. And then what? And then what? No, again, just something for you to ponder. We'll do we'll do one or two more. But what do you want to do once you graduate and you have this magical piece of paper? For some of you, it's a little more, it's tangible, like, I want to be a band director. For others, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. You don't want to wait until May 2028 to figure out, like, oh, I need a plan.
I want to be a federal parole officer.
That's cool. Federal parole officer. Last one.
Find another university to get my master's at.
Yeah, so some of you hopefully have long-term goals of getting a master's or continuing your education in another way. That's great. We'll go on from there, but I just want you to think for a second, what are your real long-term goals? And are you actually moving towards that, or are your actions going away from that? So if you don't know what your goals are, you don't know where you're headed. That's like getting in a car and saying, I'm going to take a road trip. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm just going to take right turns everywhere. You may not get very far. As a matter of fact, you'll make a square. Math joke. All right. I'm a big fan of little quips and phrases. And so throughout my undergrad, my teacher used to have several and things that I've just kind of picked up along the way that I think are helpful. Helpful for me to make sure that I don't have too much anxiety. Helpful for me to make sure that I'm not overwhelming myself. First thing, there are two very powerful things that you can say. I'm sorry I messed up, and what can I do to help fix it? And I think that's a really important thing as people who make mistakes. Because if you sit here and try and pretend like you're perfect, it makes it very difficult for you to fix the mistakes that are happening. But as soon as you own up to what you've done wrong, whether you meant to or not, intent does not matter when impact hits. And if you've done something that has caused a rift, the first and most powerful thing you can say is, I'm sorry. And mean it. I'm sorry I messed up. And what can I do to fix it? If you are someone who's very proud and you don't like to apologize, this is a very, very important thing, I think. Because you can move mountains when you're willing to work with someone else and take ownership. But when you sit there stubbornly and say, no, they're wrong. They're wrong. And they might be, to be honest. There's so many times in my life where someone else has been way more wrong than I am. But I know that I've done something wrong too. And you can definitely start a conversation a lot easier with, I'm sorry, rather than you should be sorry. I think. Water seeks its own level. I like this one. A lot of my anxiety comes from, well, what happens if they're doing this and I'm doing this, and why does everyone not see what we're doing? And why does everyone see what they're doing? And they think it's great, we're doing this, and they don't think it's great. Water seeks its own level. It will balance itself out. If you sit there and worry too much about what other people are doing, you're going to spend a lot of time and anxiety thinking about what you should be doing. And it'll balance out. It'll balance out. Take your job seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. Those of you who know me know that I'm very intense when it comes to what I expect, but I don't like to be an intense person because it's more fun that way. Life is too short to be angry. But I just like that quote. A poor craftsman blames his tools. I said this morning. If you're sitting there going, if I only had this really expensive mouthpiece, oh, if I only had this really great piano, if I only had this, then I'd sound fantastic. Poor craftsman blames his tools. You have a lot more control over that. We've seen those videos, hopefully, on YouTube of the fantastic movies made just with an iPhone camera. You don't need $60,000 cameras to make something really interesting. It helps to have expensive stuff. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. One bite at a time. How many people feel like they have an elephant to eat this semester? Something that's just a lot of things going on. Yeah. Great. Personally, it's very overwhelming to look at an entire meal and go, how am I supposed to do all of this in 2 weeks, in a month, by December 10th? It just starts with one bite. You can't try and eat it all in one. And the last one, you, and I say this sincerely, knowing most of you, but not knowing all of you, I can say this honestly, you are perfectly imperfect. You are perfectly imperfect. For those of you who struggle with anxiety, this is my phrase that has helped me balance out when I realize that I am overdoing what I think other people are doing, and I am undervaluing who I am. I am perfectly imperfect. And so for those of you who have been in ensemble rehearsals, I say it all the time, we are not perfect. And the more you try and be a flawless human being, the more you're defying your genetics, your anatomy of being flawed as humans. Keep in mind, you can strive for perfection and excellence. This is not to say you should just be okay with being bad, but understand that you are perfectly imperfect. Which kind of leads me into just some bits of advice that I feel like have helped me, and I want to emphasize that this isn't a one-size-fits-all. This isn't a here's how you can fix some of the problems in your life, but what has helped me kind of cope through my generalized anxiety. And that manifests itself in 2 ways. The first is when I have performance anxiety or kind of talking in front of large groups, some things that I do that help me deal with performance anxiety. This is not an all-inclusive list, but just a couple that I thought of while going through this. I have what I call a pre-show playlist. It's about 22 songs, and it takes about an hour and a half to get through the whole playlist. But when I have a very big concert or a very big thing that helps me calm down, I have a very big performance, I need something to help me balance back to reality, to remind me that the world is not that big if I mess up. My anxiety stems a lot from, well, what if I miss a note? What if I forget a bar? What if I don't say that thing that I really spent time working on to say today? What if I don't do that? And in my head, before that, I go, well, the world comes crashing down. It's just done. I'll just leave. I didn't say the thing about my dad working at Steak and Shake. I'm just done. I might as well give up. Because, honestly, you're going to sit here and think, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. In reality, it's not that big of a deal, right? But we spiral ourselves when we start thinking about all the worst case scenarios. And I think of a lot of worst case scenarios. Most of my time is spent thinking, what is the worst case scenario and how could I make it worse? And then what can I do to fix it? Which causes so much stress. And it's not helpful. So I put on my pre-show playlist before I have a performance or before I talk. Those of you in the front ensemble, you think it's funny that we play You Can Call Me Al. That's my pre-show playlist for the front. It puts me in a better place to know, hey, everything's going to be okay. That's a secret you did not know. From my pre-show playlist that I have, I do a lot of, if you want to know what I listen to, I'll be honest, I listen to a lot of Christian worship. Not to say that that's what you should do, but that's what I listen to. I also listen to like Run to the Hills, like some older, like metal-ish type things. Yeah, just something to get me hyped. So it's in balance of hyped and things like that. Just to be honest, what's in mine? What could be in yours is whatever makes you feel at peace and happy. To realize that the world is not going to come crashing down if you make a mistake. I also think it's helpful to control what you can control and let go of what you can't. And so I talk about that anxiety of the worst case scenario. So what can I control? Well, I can control where I'm standing today. I can control the lectern. I can control what chair I have out here. I came in here at 11 o'clock today to set this up. I didn't pick the chair. That was kind of a little stressful last minute thing. I came in here at 11 and I turned this up and made sure this worked. That's high anxiety on my end. And I trust that Cindy and Tyler at the building can make this happen. They're fantastic. But my anxiety was too much. So I came in here and made sure that worked. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just telling you a little bit about why it's so stressful to live in my head sometimes, that I have to do these things before I can calm down.
Just to say real quick, thank you, because that was actually my job to set that up.
What?
Thank you, because that was actually my job to set that up.
Okay, you're welcome. Well, you did a fantastic job. It worked. And so it's not because I don't trust other people. It's because of this demon in my head that says, like, no, you're going to screw up. You got to practice it 50 times. And so just understand that is something I struggle with and something that I have to kind of navigate. Control what I can, and what I can't control, let go. I can't control what you all are going to do today. One of you could stand up and scream and leave. I hope you don't. But I can't control what type of audience you're going to be. You are very, very respectful. I actually appreciate all of that. I can't control who's going to be here. I can't control whether the power goes out. I can't control as when I'm walking out here, I drop the clicker and my batteries break. It really is stressful. I can't control those things. And so in that way, I have to let that go. I'm not letting it go very easily, but I have to let it go and just move on. And that's really important to me to say, I can't control that. If I try to control it, it won't work. If I try and control the audience, it won't work. If I try and control you, it won't work. I can control me and how I handle that. Put yourself in positions where you will be nervous if you're going to be, and back to the performance anxiety. If you're going to be nervous about it, play for other people that make you nervous. Do things that make you nervous to practice being nervous. Because here's the other secret. You can't magically just not be nervous and stressed when you play or when you sing. You can't just, it doesn't go away. If you are already nervous, you can't just magically make that away. There is some medication that can help, by the way, and I very much support those things if that's something you suffer with. But understand that if you are nervous and you're like, well, I just need to not be nervous, you can't just magically make it go away. What you can do is learn how to control that and learn how to work with your nerves and accept it. Because it's exciting when you do something fun, and there's a reason why we do this. Even if you get really nervous playing or singing again, there's a reason why you do this, and you're excited about it. And you got to remember those things. The other thing that this manifests itself in is kind of a life anxiety. What does that person think about me? Why don't they like me? Why don't they ask me to do things to help? Why don't they want me to be involved? A million things. The biggest advice I can give when it comes to life anxiety is to try and reach out, find help, and talk to people. I have no shame in admitting that I have seen numerous therapists and counselors in my life, and they've helped me tremendously. My brother and dad are both generalized anxiety as well on heavy medication, and I know that that's a thing that I need to get help with too. And so I don't necessarily think that any of that should be stigmatized, and I know it still is. Develop skills that work for you to help find peace. And for me, accomplish something small. If the world is overwhelming for you, accomplish something small. I don't know who said the whole thing about the first thing you should do every day is make your bed, but I certainly don't do that. But if you have a hard time getting up and doing something right away, start with a win. Make your bed. You've done something today. You've gotten out of bed. And find some safe and healthy ways to escape when you can. And I think it's important to understand safe and healthy are a part of that. It's not about just finding any way to escape, but finding a way that's safe and healthy. And someone who's way smarter than me can help you with those things. So I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk to me about these things, but understand I'm not anywhere near an expert on this. And so I advise you to seek help when you can, because it helped me. I don't think I would be a successful music teacher without being able to deal with my mental challenges of that voice saying, you're not good enough. All right, please work. Spiral. I put these pictures up and it really slowed down the computer. So the things that I do that have really helped me with my anxiety. There's a ton of things we talked about, but the things that I really like to do that are non-music related. I like to do photography. I like to go out and take pictures. I want to show you some of my pictures that I've taken over the past several years. I could give them titles, but I think it's more fun to just imagine. Doesn't he look sad? It's a bird's nest. We don't know who that is. It's me. That's my mom's dog, Grace. She's not smart. That's my mom's dog, Lola. She's very smart, but unfortunately very old. But she's a great dog. And then finally we leave with my dog. This is Lexi. I love Lexi. She's great. She's much more cuddly than Chewy. And so other things that I like to do, besides spending time with friends and family, is spend time with my pets. So going out for walks with the dog is really helpful for me. I like golf. I like disc golf because it's much cheaper than regular golf. And just go for a walk around the music building or getting away from the music building. I remember personally where I would like to go when I was an undergrad. That was just kind of, it wasn't like the only special place, but it definitely was just a nice place for me to go and sit. Not many people were on campus at night in that location, so I could just go and be by myself. And for the extreme introvert that I am, that was really nice. I'm not going to ask you necessarily where your favorite place is that you like to, go on campus, because I don't want you to give away your secret spots. But it's helpful to kind of know it's good to get away from the building sometimes. I got off track quite a bit from my whole talk about me and the journey, but I ended up graduating from UK with an undergrad in music performance, a minor in Spanish, and a double major, a dual degree in mathematics. And so the math degree that only shows up when I get to use these kinds of topics. I'm going to rush through this last part just because I do want to end not late. But ultimately, I got a math degree. I thought it was fun. The misdirection here was I took a math class when I was an undergrad. I came in as a chemistry major and a double major in music. So that's what I wanted to do. My sister was in chemistry and she was like, you make a lot of money, you can get the Jaguar. Yeah. So I did that. And my first semester I took a math class, Calc 3, and the teacher I couldn't understand a word that he said. It went completely over my head, and I tried to get help, and he didn't want to work with me at all, so I dropped the course. I said, this is ridiculous. I'm stupid, I can't do this. And I dropped the course, and in dropping the course, I dropped the major. In dropping that, I realized that I miss math. Music is very abstract for me, and so concrete math made me feel safe. And there was an answer, and you could be done when x equals 3. But at any rate, that's the reason why I got the math degree, was because I quit math to drop the chemistry to major and realize that was a path. It really only helps me in a couple things. I had some fun things planned, but out of time, I'm going to pass through those. But the math degree is somewhat useful for me. It helps me process, like, if a triplet at 120, what does triplet, what is that tempo when we modulate? So if we have triplets at 120, triplet, the speed stays the same. What is that tempo? Guesses? It's 90 BPM. So if this is 120, metric modulation is this term where you take a rhythm and it morphs the time. The new tempo is 90, using math, magic, witchcraft. Other fun things to do with that are learning how to subdivide and count and work with fivelets and things like that. Again, fun little rhythm games that I can do for another time. 5/3 if we want to learn that polyrhythm. Anyway, fun time. All right. the last thing I'll mention, because I get this question a lot, is how did you get involved in kind of electronics? And how did you learn how to do everything? And this was a whole series of mistakes and failures. I got hired at Lafayette High School, which was here for VOA last week. I worked there for 7 years. And the first day on the job, they say, hey, you're going to run the mixer. I've never dealt with a mixer before. I was 20 and I'd never dealt with electronics at all. But band directors, it's a thing you're going to have to do. I was asked to teach. By the time I went to go get my master's, a friend of mine said, hey, you should buy these speakers, they're really nice. So I bought these speakers for my TV. They didn't work for a TV. They only worked with an audio interface. And so I had to buy an audio interface, and if you give a mouse a cookie or a moose a muffin, depending on where you were born, I learned about all of that. Started recording, and then I started charging people like $50 to record their recital, because where I went to school, we didn't have these really cool microphones that could record your recitals. So I was making like $50 a recital just doing all these student recitals, giving people hopefully good recordings with just an audio interface and a pair of mics. Using that money, I invested in more. And so it was a mistake. I didn't mean to buy those speakers. And all of a sudden we kind of ended with me just like playing with electronics for a while until you get to do some really fun things like this. In conclusion, when things don't go your way, be flexible. Don't give up on your goals and the dreams just because your path is not as clear. Your path is unique to you. You can try and follow others and try and mirror that, but ultimately what works out best will be what is right for you in the end. You may not know it now, but when you look back, it'll make sense. And don't lose sight of the goals while you're here. It's not to be perfect. It's not to show the world how great you are, but to learn and have a great time making music with friends. That's all I have. Thank you. I'm happy to answer. Again, if you don't want to ask questions right now or want to ask me later, feel free. Send me an email or come find me in the hallway. But I'm happy to answer any questions you may have today. Yeah.
So, how did you manage to kind of hide and put in the bag your vertical needs? Because like you're giving, at least for me, the exact impression you want me to be living. So that was just fantastic.
So I've tricked you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And how you do it?
So I think the best thing that I try and do is I just really put on that. I want to make sure that everyone is excited to see. I want to be the person that everyone's excited to see. And so when I think about that, I think about, all right, what do I have to do? So when I walk in the door, it's like, okay. And it's a little bit of acting in the sense of I am excited to be here, but this part where I portray that is a little bit of just, that's what I want you to see in the sense of, I don't want you to think that I'm mad at you or pissed off, and I think a lot of people who are introverted can come across that way, even though they're not. So if you've got a friend who you're like, why are you so angry all the time? And they're like, I'm not angry, but now I'm mad because you asked me. It's like, that's probably just them, and it's okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. Like I'm at a level where I'm just trying to smile for now, and that makes a challenge. So
it's not easy, and I'll say this, I fail a lot at it, and it's also important to say, like, it's okay that you don't smile all the time, too. You know, I think it's weird for me because we were joking, Dr. Ball and I were joking, like, if I'm not smiling, people think something's really wrong. And so that sets a precedent, too. So you have to be careful where it's like, you don't want to be impossibly cheery all the time. But at the same time, that's why I do it. I want to be really approachable, and I want to make everyone else's day better. Like that's kind of like, if you see me, and we've all seen, you know, we remember David Chapman and the joy that he brings everybody, you know, just by saying hi. I don't want to necessarily be that person, but for me, that's important. Yeah.
Random question. What is your experience with Arabic percussion?
Say that one more time.
Arabic percussion or Arabic music?
What is my experience with it? I've studied doumbek quite a bit. When I was in Michigan, Joe Gramley was my teacher, and he kind of taught intensives on doumbek, and I've studied with Yusuf Sharanik privately, so I can play some Rick, and Rick and doumbek are pretty much what I'm most comfortable with. I don't think I'd be able to sit in with an Arabic ensemble, but I can definitely teach you how to play all the tones really well.
What was the piece that you...
Oh, I made that up.
Oh, right.
Yeah. When I was out, real quick, and we'll come back over here. So when I was getting my doctorate, I did my dissertation on a guy named Anders Ostrand, who is writing a piece for the percussion ensemble. And which is, you know, again, there's a fun concert on November 5th at 5 p.m. if you want to see more great music. But I wrote my dissertation on his style of being a musician. He composes his own music. He plays classic repertoire. He also teaches. And so I wrote my dissertation basically saying, how do we as teachers train students to be those types of people, where you're comfortable improvising, where you're comfortable composing, where you're comfortable interpreting artwork. Because I think a lot of us are really good at like one of those three, but not necessarily all of them all the time. Anyway, so he taught me how to come up with a basic chord structure, of, all right, we're going to start with, I think it was, I couldn't even remember now, D minor to F major to something to D flat diminished. I just came up with that and made up parts and just looped it, if that makes sense.
I was going to say, regarding the insurance thing, how would do you have any tips or tricks on how to prevent yourself from like just being drained after that sort of thing?
I have terrible balance and terrible, like, I just deal with that drained feeling. I think it's important for you to establish what you need. And if you need time, and you have to communicate that to other people too. And that communication is the hard part. For me, I need a certain amount of time when I come home before I can even kind of be talked to. And that's a communication expectation for my partner where it's like, when I get home, it's like, don't talk to me. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and a half. And that's really challenging because sometimes, we don't get home until 10:45 or whatever. And so that's a hard balance that I struggle with too. But the biggest tip I could give is know what you need and start to recognize that. For me, I do a self-assessment where am I at 0 to 10? 10 being like, I am gonna, if somebody even asks me, like, oh, I broke the bow, I'm gonna just lose it. And if I know I'm at a 10, I need to not be around other people, or I'm gonna lose it when I don't want to. I was at like a 6 today when I lost it over the ride cymbal. So, but there was nothing being flown around, but just, I can tell when I'm getting drained and I need to back away and take a little bit of time. And then I know what I use to back away. Like for me, it's podcasts and TV shows and things. Comedy is my thing. So I like to just watch comedy. Oh no, that's right.
I picked up your sneezing's got the clicker face.
I got it.
Okay. I mean, it's just funny. It wasn't broken, but it was enough of a stressor for me to be like, well, just leave it. It's done. Like I'm going into battle and that guy already got shot, so I'm just gonna go. Like, all right. Any other? I honestly, I'm very impressed with just the student body here. You all are fantastic. So thank you for letting me talk today.